Should we dive in about the movie?
Yeah, let's talk.
The Real Bros of Simi Valley?
Yeah.
Chop it up.
How long did it take you to write the script?
It was like 6 months.
Was it? No.
Yeah, I think we.
Dude, I was listening
when we
to-
actually started.
Dude, I was listening to Jimmy, and Jimmy was saying something like 7 years.
What was that?
I was listening to some interview you were doing,
Mhm.
and the movie, I thought it was this one.
Yeah.
You spent about 7 years on it.
No,
you asked
that
a
was
question you knew the answer to?
No.
just
That
to
was
get
a
him,
different.
just to spark
That
it
was
up.
a different movie. This show we started the show in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie took us. I think once we started writing it, it took us like 4 or 5 months. But that was also spread out. Like we weren't even linking up like every day.
Yeah.
And then I went to Atlanta. We were meeting up on Zoom.
Well, we were trying to continue the show first for a while. We had for a while mapped out what the show would look like if 3 more seasons or 2 if we could, if that was it, all we could get. And we had this whole narrative mapped out. We were pitching it, and we didn't really get any big bites. And we got the opportunity to make it a movie. We sat down, kind of reconfigured it for a while.
Yeah.
And then once we actually were like, all right, this is the bones of the story, then it was, I think, 4 to 6 months to actually just script it out. But there was a lot of time before that of shaping the world kind of.
Yeah, it was how do we take this from a show? Because it was such a show, and there was so many moments that were you can just let moments in the show run on for so long. As long as the full episode ends up being part of the story, you can spend time doing little random stupid tangents.
Yeah.
Where you don't really have that with a movie. So
Not
a
at
lot
all.
of it was figuring out how do we turn this into a movie? And for a while we were trying to write it. We're trying to change it we were trying to write it as 3 acts, like how movies are. And then after a minute I was like, why don't we just do this as why don't we write 6 mini episodes? We knew what we wanted to do. We knew what the last season was going to be that we wanted to do. And it was a high school reunion. Because to show about these bros that peaked in high school, you got to do their high school reunion eventually. you know?
Yeah.
So that was what we landed on. And then, so it took a while to kind of crack the code of how do we turn this into a show
Yeah. It was tough.
or a movie rather. But
How did you go from to 2 seasons, 3 seasons, no one's really biting on it, to having the opportunity to do a movie?
Well, people were biting. I mean, you saying after the show had been out for a minute, and we were trying.
You said you were talking about hey, when's the show?
Right,
end?
so the
2 seasons,
writing
3
2 to 3
seasons.
Right. So season
No
3
one-
was out. It came out. It did really well on Facebook, but Facebook didn't want to do a 4th season. And we were kind of okay, cool.
well, Facebook also dissolved as
Right.
they were no longer a platform.
Definitely the demographic you're probably not looking for. My grandparents really utilize Facebook.
Right. Well,
Right.
they were just after a while why are we going to be spending money on content? Let's just keep being Facebook and make billions of dollars
Yeah.
and stop spending
Right.
money on shows.
Right.
So they dissolved their platform.
Right. We were cool. Let's try to get somewhere else. We feel the fan base is up and invigorated. We still have stories we want to tell, but we just couldn't. Nobody really wanted it. At the time we were trying to pitch it as the continuation of the series. So that took a while. It's a year probably of us trying to get it
Yeah.
sold.
Unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
Were you guys ever thinking let's just use YouTube?
Yeah.
Well,
we
you
thought
just
about,
put it
I mean, we
back
thought
out
about
on YouTube.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
at
but
every
it's
avenue.
it's just not. You're never gonna make you'd have to get an investor to put the money up, and I couldn't sit down with an investor and look him in the eye and say, "You're gonna make your money
Guarantee
back."
ROI. Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
There's no way you're making your money back from YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
especially on a movie. Or I mean, if you do a show, it's shows are expensive, and you're not making that amount of money back on YouTube unless you're getting 1 billion views an episode or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And a movie sounds like a bigger investment, and it is a different kind of investment, but it's half the time of the season 3 we put out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's half the storylines, it's half of all the shit, it's half of what it took to produce the last season. So it was a bigger investment, I guess stakes wise, but
Yeah, it was harder to choose. It was we have to be more selective about what we're putting in it, and
we wrote some funny shit that couldn't go in there. We were like, oh, this would be good beyond it. We were like, oh, but wait, we don't got time.
yeah, we wanted one of the characters was we had this whole storyline about the truck nuts getting too big, and then they started breaking off and causing accidents in Simi. So then the
People were protesting.
The mayor is like trying to shut down truck nuts and Simi. So then Wade was going to run for mayor to like
Change legislation.
And we're like, we can't fit this into a movie. This
Yeah.
is just like,
Yeah.
if we had a show,
Yeah.
we could do like, that could be a little storyline going on in a show, but we don't have this kind of time with a movie.
When you're going through like a year of like trying to figure it all out, for people that are listening that want to write, want to act, do all those things, why didn't you guys just like say, hey, listen, we'll just go move on to something else? Like, what made you guys keep moving?
I think we believed in it. Well, I know we believed in it.
Yeah, well, it's happening.
Yeah.
We believed in it. We knew it was good. And also like the fans people loved the show, and we knew what we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so hard to wrap our heads around, like, never mind,
Yeah.
it just like would feel, I just need that, like, we needed that, like,
The
at
closure
least,
on it all.
yeah, like having that like ending, even if we don't end up ending it like this,
Yeah.
having that ending is just like creatively you need it. But during that year, I think the thing, like the biggest takeaway for me with this is just like, people really don't, network studios, they really don't believe in something unless you just do it.
Yeah.
And that's the story of this show. Like, we just made it on YouTube, self-financed it, did a little mini season, and then Facebook saw it and they're like, oh, yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah.
And then we did like, they didn't want to do a full 30-minute thing, so we did 12 to 15-minute episodes. And they saw that and they're like, oh,
you guys can handle this.
you can handle this.
All
Okay.
right.
20-minute episodes.
Yeah.
And then still like trying to pitch it to, the major studios like Netflix, Amazon and stuff. It was like everyone was super impressed by it and they like seemed to love it in the room.
I'll still buy it.
But then there was no follow through.
Yeah.
And I still honestly don't really understand why.
Yeah. Every
it's
pitch we
like-
go into, we would come into every pitch and they'd be like, yo, we just want to start off by saying we fucking love the show. We're big fans. Or people are quoting it. I'm like, oh, that's a first. You come into a pitch, they're quoting shit you've already done.
Like,
And
this
then at
should
the
be a
end, a week later,
cakewalk.
they're like, yeah, but it's not for us. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
How do you justify that?
Somebody didn't believe in it enough, but on the front end, they were talking about how much they loved it. So I don't know what the.
Yeah, I
business
honestly
side of that
don't know
is.
what, because it was like, it's cheap to make. You have a built-in fan base
Yeah.
that has already proved they came from YouTube to Facebook.
We do the marketing for you.
Yeah, we do all the marketing for you. We have all the characters of social media accounts. Like, it's a fucking universe.
Yeah.
Um,
You would almost think that your resume of all of that will sell it enough to be, hey, you guys can believe that we're going to put this thing together. We're going to
Yeah.
execute.
Yeah.
so I was like, I truly still don't really understand. Like, most pitches I go into, I'm like, no guarantees. But this was like, it just felt like such a
Layup.
layup.
Yeah.
So yeah, it felt unnecessarily complicated to
Yeah.
eventually make this movie. But it is cool to like start it off as a mini series, make a bigger show, make a bigger show, and now do a movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a cool, very like modern indie filmmaking arc.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got an insane following. When you guys did that first little miniseries, did you expect it to take off the way it did, or was it just like, hey, this seems like a fun little deal?
You always want things to do well. Like, certain things could be big, but I never expected it to be what it is now. Like, you never know which one's going to hit the way I feel like this has.
I'm like the guy. I'm never the guy that's like, I never saw this coming. I'm like, I'm not that guy. I feel like there's, it's cool to be that guy, but for this, I genuinely like, I did not see this. I didn't see this coming. Like,
Yeah.
we just were like, the concept of the show came from like, we were doing a video every week on YouTube, and it was like, hey, this is unsustainable to wake up on Tuesday morning and say what's coming next week and scramble every 6 days.
Yep.
Let's write, shoot, edit. So it was like, we started going, all right, let's do bigger shoots. Like let's knock out like a couple things in one shoot. And this is how this was birthed. It was like, all right, we wanted to make fun of reality shows, so we did this, and we weren't really. I didn't think we were gonna do more. I thought we were just gonna do that, and like, and then Studio 71, who's the production company now, was like, they were like the multi-channel network that repped the YouTube channel. They were like, hey, do you mind if we try to sell this to Facebook? And I was just kind of like, no, like I don't, we're not doing anything with it. It's just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yeah, they want to do it. And we were like, oh, okay, I guess
do
we
it.
can.
All right, yeah.
And then they were like, actually gave us like a budget to like make a real show.
Mm-hmm.
And they just give you like a production budget. Be like, hey, this is what we want to invest in you guys. Let's call it $500,000. Like we want to give that
Right.
toward you guys hiring out who you need to hire out to execute this on your
Yeah.
own, right?
Yeah, it was like at first it was gonna be like, they were saying like we're gonna give you like 80 an episode or something, and we're like, oh fuck yeah,
We thought that was
that's
a lot.
incredible.
Yeah,
which
it's
is like for a
crazy.
show, like most
Yeah,
shows
yeah.
are like $2 to $3 million, and then they were like, hey, we're gonna give you like 400 an episode. We were like, oh, okay, that's like a real, like that's still in the grand scheme of things like a very low budget show, but it's like a real. All of a sudden we're on
Yeah.
set, we have trailers. It's like a whole fucking.
Yeah, you're going from making weekly YouTube videos just fucking
You're
around
really
to
doing
like,
the
yo,
real
we
shit,
got
yeah.
we got a nice little budget to work with.
It
boys.
is
We
funny
can do this.
seeing season 1 to season 2, like just the production value of it all.
Yeah, it just like went so, and like also we started writing it, and like we wrote the first one. The whole concept is like nothing happens,
Right.
but like you add dramatic music and zooms and sound effects and makes everything seem like a big deal. And then season 2, like we're halfway through the writing process, and we're like, I remember we kind of looked at each other, we're like, is this really good?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple times we were writing it too good. We were like, we need to take a step back.
Yeah,
Like,
I think this is getting pretty good.
yeah. We were watching too much Game of Thrones or some shit.
Yeah,
We're like,
we
we're
were
getting
watching-
there just writing crazy shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were watching Game of Thrones, and we're like, so we had we were just trying to weave all these character arcs together. And honestly, I think that I think it helped. I think watching Game
Oh,
of
for
Thrones
sure. Yeah.
really did influence, and you can see that in the show. You
The
watch
stakes
the
get
show.
so unnecessary big. Yeah.
I think anyone takes a look at Real Bros and they say
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Right
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
This is inspired by Game of Thrones. It's like when what is it like? Is it George R. Martin? His like notes leak on how he puts stories together and builds out stories. You're like, hey fellas, George just dropped one. Like, let's figure out how to put Real Bros of Simi Valley into this and mesh all the story arcs together. That's about the end of the story.
I mean, we used like a graph. We'd go like episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through 10, and then the characters on this side. There's like x-axis and a y-axis, and it would be like Xander, Bryce, Wade, Duncan, all the way, and then episodes, and then you'd kind of be like all the funny things that you have. You just kind of start throwing them up there, all the things that you want to happen, all the big moments. And then you kind of start to look at it and like, oh, well, maybe that goes there, that goes there, that goes there.
And then someone can have an idea that just is so funny it demolishes all that. You're like, fuck, that's so good.
Yeah.
We have to do that. Erase half of that shit. Put this in. That's a good problem to have though. Season 3 we took it up a notch though with the stakes. Season 2 stakes went up. Season 3 we had some stakes that Facebook came back with notes and they were like, we don't know about this.
Yeah,
Really?
we
You guys
like
are getting kind of crazy. Yeah. But
What
we
were they,
loved it
what were they
though.
hesitant about?
With shit that we didn't end up putting in.
we
A lot
threw
of
it.
Yeah.
We kind of threw a decoy twist in because we knew that the twist was gonna be like too gnarly.
And we knew they were also going to we also learned like if we write certain things, they shut down certain things. So like if we aim for the fences and like purposely kind of go over, they'll dial it back to where we really want it.
Yeah.
So we went kind of
So we
crazy.
pitched
Master
like
negotiator, dude.
we pitched this ending that was like, I mean, I can say we're never gonna do
Yeah,
it
you
now,
have
but
to
like
say
we
it.
had this whole ending where like one of the characters in season 3 is like, you find out that she's a producer on the show and she was put in the show to stir up drama because they want to get more views.
Which was already crazy.
She works for Facebook in the show. But you don't find that out until like the last episode. And it's very like kind of thrown away. But we were like, yeah, that. And then they find out she's been cloning them.
And she
the
comes
plan
into a
is
lab.
to clone them, kill the real bros, and just have the clones do the show forever. And they were like,
And we pictured them in person. And they were like,
so the clones.
huh.
They're like, I don't know about the clones. They're like, the producer's cool, but I don't know about the clones. And we were like, perfect.
Cool, we'll take that.
That's all.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
need.
yeah.
Is that something y'all talked about before you walked in?
I think we were actually down to do
We were, let's go as crazy as we can.
Yeah, we were
So
down
you know
to
what
do
I
the
think?
clones.
If they would have said
saying,
yes,
yeah.
we would have had clones.
Do you guys know, hey, we know the clones idea is a little crazy. but we're gonna go in there knowing that they're not gonna take the clone bait.
But if they would have said yes, we'd been like, cool, we're doing the clones.
Yeah.
And we would come up with something else crazier. Like they had to shut down. Yeah.
That doesn't mean that if they had said yes, we would have actually followed through. There's a good chance that we would start writing and be like, this is a little too
This
much.
is tough. Yeah. It's Game of Thrones fucking getting to us.
Yeah.